We'll start as we always do, sitting up as tall as we can in our chair, maybe even pushing our hands into the chair to get our spine straight and long. We're going to think maybe about moving a little further forward so we're not leaning into the back of the chair. We're making sure that our feet are directly underneath our knees. If our feet don't quite reach the floor, we're going to think about getting something like a little step stool or a bolster or a folded blanket or something that will allow us to get our feet down so that we feel firmly planted on the ground and we don't have to let our knees dangle or cause any lack of circulation on the back of the legs. We can use one of the yoga hand gestures, Gyan Mudra or Chin Mudra. Mudra means hand gesture. It's one that helps us with a concentration. We join our index finger with our thumb. Another way of getting into more of a meditative internal thinking mode is to put one hand on top of the other and let our thumbs come together. Or if we can just want to let our hands rest on our lap, we can do that. We're just going to find a comfortable position that allows us to concentrate totally on our breath. We're breathing in through our nose, keeping the warmth in our body by breathing out through our nose. We're making sure we're using that 3-part breath. It's called Durga Pranayama in Sanskrit. It means that we want the belly moving out, then the rib cage opening and the chest lifting. And then we start the chest collapsing as the air moves out of our upper lungs. The rib cage muscles tighten it up to push everything to the middle lungs. And that diaphragm starts pushing upward to the bottom part of our lungs to get all that air circulating in our body, bringing a fresh supply of blood and oxygen. We concentrate so hard on our breath that we start recognizing the importance of this moment and being fully present in it. Knowing that the past is history, that we only know it because we're thinking of it at this point in time. Letting go of any sorrows or guilt we may feel about that past. And thinking that tomorrow is a mystery. We only know about it because of our hopes, our fears, our dreams at this moment in time. So we let go of that thinking toward the future and just recognize that this moment is a gift that can never come again. So being truly present as we go through this practice. Making sure we take our time going into any pose, that we never feel any pain or any strain, that we decide how deeply we want to go into a pose, how much adaptation we need to make to keep it a comfortable working of muscles. As we breathe in, let's tilt our ear up toward our shoulders, straight forward, not letting the chin drop, coming back to center, going over to the opposite shoulder. So we're just moving the head from side to side. We're not trying to get it turned in any way. We're not trying to let it drop further forward. We're just trying to get a stretch down through the side of the neck into the shoulder. Now as we drop the ear to the shoulder, we're going to take our opposite arm and push our fingertips far away. Come back, we're going to stay on the same side rather than flipping side to side. Pushing our hand, getting more stretch down through the shoulder as well as into the neck. Switching to the opposite side. Head tilt with hand pushing out, coming back to our starting point. Deep breath in as we push and stretch. Slow exhale as we come back. Staying on this side, as we tilt our ear to the shoulder, we're going to bring our opposite hand and try and push that shoulder even further away, back to our center. To the opposite shoulder. Ear drops, hand out, opposite hand pushing that shoulder even lower. Maximizing that stretch from the neck to the shoulder. And then coming back to center, we're going to straighten out. our hands so that our palm is facing down. We can have it straight forward. If we'd like to work more through the shoulder of the arm, we can let it rest on our lap. But we're just going to take each finger in turn and bring it in toward the palm of our hand. If you want to use our opposite hand to bend it in, we can do that. Or we can just use the strength of the muscles in the fingers. The agility of the fingers may depend whether or not we can move them in all the way to the palm, or it's only a little bit of movement. We'll do the thumb as well. And then leaving the thumb there, we'll pull the fingers over it and really tighten our opposite hand around it, giving it a good hard squeeze before we switch to the opposite hand. So again, starting with little finger, in and out, then to our ring finger. And again, we'll go as far as we can. If it doesn't touch the palm, we don't care. We just care about the fact that we're exercising the fingers, getting fresh blood, oxygen, heat flowing in those joints. And then leaving the thumb in, curling the fingers around it, and giving that hand a big squeeze. Now we're going to wiggle our fingers out to the one side, opposite side, straight forward, back behind us. Now we're going to pretend we're playing a piano, just running those fingers to the lowest part and the highest part of the keyboard. Then we're going to swing our arms, bringing our fingers pointed in the same direction as we just gently slide those hands from side to side. Now when we bring our hands back, we're going to bring the hands out to our shoulders. We can leave our elbows tight to our side, or we can lift them even with our shoulders, but we're just going to pull our elbows closer together toward a midline. So we might be able to bring the elbows together in the front, and again, it could be lower. Might be just a little bit of motion. We decide how far we feel we can really stretch out those muscles on the back, tighten up and strengthen the muscles on the front of the chest by opening and closing. Working on the flexibility of the shoulders. Now we're going to open our arms straight forward. Make fists with our hands, pull them in toward our shoulders. Hands straight forward. Fists again. Opening those fingers, bringing that warmth and blood flow to each one of the joints of the fingers. Then hands out to either side. We're going to make cactus arms, and again, the elbows can be low or high. We're just going to pull one elbow into our side as we bring the opposite hand up over the top. We'll make a fist with that hand as we come back. Let's stay on that same side. Makes it a little bit easier than trying to work side to side. And again, if we don't feel we can bring that hand all the way over our head, we can just bring our elbow up. We'll switch to the opposite side. Staying in a range of motion. That allows us to feel as though we're getting a nice stretch, strengthening the muscles without strain, without pain. And we're going to come back to center. And we're going to think about doing some peanut butter jar. So we're going to push our belly back, our rib cage, our spine back toward the back of the chair. We're going to swing over to one side. We're going to pull forward. We're thinking about the fact that we got trapped in a peanut butter jar, and we're trying to scrape the edges of that glass in the front and the back. And then we'll reverse direction. And we'll come up and we'll sit up tall. We'll work a little bit more on the shoulders. This time that lifting the arm up and bringing it in toward our heart, out to the side, in toward the heart, out to the side, in toward the heart, and then holding on with the opposite hand and trying to pull that elbow a little bit over toward our opposite shoulder. Again, it can be pretty low, or if we can, even with our shoulder coming back up to the side. And this time we're going to take this to a twist as well as the arm movement. So we're going to pulse on the hip of the bent arm. And we're going to start rotating over through the belly, rib cage, turn as far as we can over to the side. Come back towards center. Belly, rib cage, shoulders. Belly, rib cage, shoulders. Really giving a nice tug on that arm, just holding it for a few breaths so that we really get a good twist through the shoulders, good stretch across that front arm. We'll bring that hand back. We're going to make some circles with that elbow. And then we're going to take that opposite hand. We're going to lift that elbow as high as we can. Maybe it's just a little bit in front of our shoulders. Maybe we can bring it all the way up and hold on to that elbow with our opposite hand. Either way, we're going to make some circles with that elbow again and reverse direction. And we'll drop our hand down to our side and switch to the opposite side. So starting with the elbow out, in toward our heart. Out, in toward our heart, at whatever height suits. Deep breath in. As we exhale, this time we'll grab on with the opposite arm and see if we can pull it tighter over toward our other shoulder. And again, if it's pretty low, that's fine. If it's barely toward a midline, that's fine. Now we're going to end the twist, so we're going to pulse on our hip. We're going to rotate around as we bring an arm with us. And let's hold it and see if we can turn a little bit more. Bring that elbow a little tighter in toward our back shoulder. Trying to twist a little more through the belly, the rib cage, getting all that tension out of our spine before we come back to center. And we'll make some elbow circles again. So they can be pretty high up, they can be pretty low, or reverse direction. Just trying to loosen up the muscles in the shoulder, give it a little more flexibility, range of motion. And then bringing opposite hand over, staying with the elbow fairly low, or bringing that elbow all the way up to the sky. Either way, making those circles, reversing direction. And then sitting up nice and tall, we're going to think about our forward bend always being a movement of the belly down toward our legs first. We never start with the shoulders because then we have a tendency to round the back, leaving it open to potential damage. So we're going to just start with our hands planted on our thighs, and we're going to just lean forward just a teeny bit and sit up tall. We're going to bring our hands out further on our legs. We're going to come a little bit lower, keeping our elbows tight to our side, trying to see if we can feel the stretch on the back of the hips, the lower back. Sitting up tall. Coming forward again, maybe bringing our hands down toward our shins this time, or maybe leaving them up on our legs. We never want to strain, we never want to feel any pain. Then we're going to come forward, and depending upon how low we can go, we're either going to take one hand and support it across our legs, or we're going to bring that hand down to the floor. We're going to take our opposite hand and just shake it and swing it back and forth. And then we're going to lift it out to the side and down. We'll turn our chin and follow that hand as we lift. Bring our head back towards center as we bring the hand down. Now we'll switch to the opposite side. So again, we can have our hand on the floor. We might feel it better for us to have our forearm supporting us across our legs. We're just going to take that dangling arm and just swing it back and forth, loosening up any tension in the arm, bringing good circulation to it. Now we're going to lift it out to the side, again turning our head, watching those fingertips. Nice slow inhale as we lift to the side and exhale as we come back. And coming back to center, we're going to sit up nice and tall. We're going to lift one foot off the floor, and we're just going to let our foot dangle side to side. If we want to hold on to that foot, we can do that, or leg. Give it more support, we can do that. We'll go to the opposite leg. Just letting that foot swing back and forth. Now we'll lift and we'll do the same thing with the knee, letting it move in and out. Again, no hands if we'd like, holding onto the chair if we'd like, or holding onto the leg if it needs support. Doing the same thing on the opposite leg. In and out. Loosening, stretching muscles on the inner thigh across the lower abs. And now making some knee circles with the opposite leg. Around and around. Reversing. Switching legs. Inhaling out, exhaling together. Bringing our legs back, straightening out our legs in front, pushing through the heels as much as we can. We're trying to feel a really good stretch down through the calf muscle, down into the heel. So the more we can bend the foot back on itself, the more we're going to feel that stretch. And then we're going to push our toes to the ground so we're feeling the same kind of stretch across the front of the feet. Toes up and down. We can have our knees bent a bit if we like. And if we do that, we might want to pick our heels off the ground when we bring our toes down. And then let's think about rotation of the legs. Loosening up to that hip joint by taking that ball at the head of the femur and swiveling it around in the socket of the hip. So we'll keep our legs straight. We're going to flop our foot to the outside, turn the toes in. We want to do this with the leg lifted. That's going to make more work for building up strength in the muscles. The hip flexor, the quadricep, abdominals. And we'll switch to the opposite side. Again, if we'd like, foot can stay on the floor. We can rotate so that we get that circulation improving through that hip socket. Or if we like, we can have that leg lifted for a little bit more work. Muscles that are our walking muscles. The iliacus goes from the bony part of our hip down to that trochanter on our femur. The psoas goes from our spine, same place. And we'll plant both feet on the floor. And we're going to think about doing a cat and cow. So we can do this with our legs wide today. We usually do it with our feet together. And we can do it with our legs straight if we prefer to get a little bit more stretch in the back of the legs, still flexing through the feet. Or we can plant our feet flat on the floor. Regardless of how we're sitting, we're thinking about putting our hands on the seat of the chair so that we can maintain our stability. We're going to push the belly forward, push the rib cage forward, pull the shoulder blades tight together and lift our chin. Then we're going to push our belly toward the back of the chair, our rib cage toward the back of the chair. We're going to let our shoulders roll together as we drop our chin. A couple more times. Then we're going to come back to neutral and we're going to take this to a twist. So we're going to pulse and rotate around to the side, starting with hip, rib cage, shoulder, hip, rib cage, shoulder, hip, rib cage, shoulder. Now we're going to work on bending to the side. We're going to take our hand, forward hand, lift it high to the sky and bring it back up over toward the back of the chair. Forward, lift it up and back, forward, lift it up and back. Now we're going to take our other hand, hold on to the seat of the chair, lift our back hand up, and lean out over that long leg. We're trying not to twist at all. We're just leaning out to the side, bringing that shoulder up over our hip joint. Now we're going to turn to the opposite side. So we're going to do our rotation first, pulsing, turning around, back towards center, belly, rib cage, shoulder, belly, rib cage, shoulder. And then staying turned so that our shoulders are lining up more or less with that long leg. We're going to take that front hand and lift it up as we bend our back elbow, dropping that back shoulder closer to the back of the chair, the seat of the chair. We could be doing these with chairs that have arms, but on poses like this, it makes it a little bit harder to get the maneuverability we would like. And we're going to sit up and hold on to the chair with the opposite hand. We're going to try and keep the shoulders lined up. We're thinking about taking this shoulder, bending the elbow, dropping it down as we bring the other arm up and over the top. And again, if we're feeling uncomfortable with the legs long, we're going to plant our feet flat on the floor, bring our feet closer together. We don't have to get that hand all the way over our head. We stay where we feel comfortable. And now we're going to leave one foot wide on that side and turn the toes out as far as we can to the side. We're going to take our other foot and bring it in closer to the chair so we can get both of the knees pointing pretty much in the same direction. We'll pick up our back heel for now. And we're going to take that back knee and pull it outward and in and wiggle it a few times. Out and in. We're just trying to get a little bit more flexibility through the thigh and the groin area. Now we're going into our rocking horse. We're going to lean forward. And as we lean back, we're going to pick up that front foot. We can hold onto the chair. We can pick up the back foot. Or we can pretend we're actually holding onto the reins of a horse as we rock back and forth. And now we're going into our warrior series. They're called Virabhadrasana. They're much harder to do seated in a chair, actually much easier to do standing, but we're doing chair yoga, so we're going to stay here. The back foot can stay where it is. That will be fine for many of us. That's where we need to be. Some of us, however, may be able to take this to an actual warrior pose by straightening out this leg all the way so we can plant that foot at the floor, on the floor entirely. The heel's on the ground, the outer edge of the foot is on the ground. But we go where we need to go. Our idea is that we're going to line up our shoulders and our hips with the thigh and that front leg. We're going to take a deep breath in, stretch our arms forward and back. And we're going to bring our hands together, dropping them down to the side, turn toward that front knee and lift our hands, stretch high to the sky. We're going to bring our hands down, stretch them forward and back as we line up our shoulders with that front leg. And now we turn so our midline is lining up with the inside of that front leg, stretching hands high to the sky. Warrior 2, Warrior 1, Warrior 2, and holding it. Pushing as hard as we can through our fingertips. If we want to drop our arms lower, that's fine. Whatever works. If we need to adjust that foot and pull it closer, that's fine too. We go where our body says, this is where we should be today. We're going to reverse this and stretch through the front side. So we're going to take our back hand and hold down to this side of the chair. We're going to take our other hand up, lift high to the sky, get our torso as long as we can, our spine high. We're going to lean over backward. If we're not comfortable holding this, then we're just going to work with our breath, high to the sky, lean over backward, high to the sky, lean over backward, maybe holding it the whole while so that we're trying to really lift the shoulder away from the rib cage away from the hip, maximizing the stretch we're getting down this side. Now we're going to come forward, we're going to bend the front arm and bring it down to our thigh. We're not going to twist it all through the spine, so we make sure that our shoulders are lining up with that front leg. We're going to bring our shoulder far enough forward so that we get a straight line between our hip and our foot. And then we're going to bring that hand up and over that. And then we're going to bring that hand down and around. And we're going to switch to the opposite side. So we're going to find ourselves well seated on the chair, but the further we come to the front of the chair and still maintain our stability, the more work we can get done through the hip area. We're going to take the opposite foot forward and turn it as far as we can toward the side. Our other foot's going to come behind us. And this time we're going to keep the heel off the floor for now. We're going to bring that knee out toward the front, and then we're going to let it flop in and out a few times. Bring it out to the front. Do some more flopping with it. We're trying to stretch inner and outer thigh muscles. Hamstring, on the back of the leg, quadricep on the front of the leg. And then into our rocking horse. So leaving the back heel up, we're going to lean back, pick up our front foot if we can. But if we don't want to, if we just want to rock from sit bone to sit bone, that's fine. We go where our body says, this is okay to be today. I can do this. I want to do this. I'm comfortable doing this. Then into our warrior pose. So this front foot plants flat on the floor. Back leg might stay where it is. Or we're going to stretch it even further so that we can plant the foot on the floor. We may find that we can do one thing on one side, but the other side just isn't quite as flexible. That's normal, logical. So we go where we can today. We line up our shoulders with the inside of that front leg. We bring our hands forward and back. And now we're going to drop our hands as we turn toward our front knee. Lift our hands high to the sky. And moving between our warrior 2, Virabhadrasana Devi, to our warrior 1, Virabhadrasana Eka. Back leg as straight as we can get it, or the knee well bent. Holding our warrior 2, pushing as hard as we can, fingertip to fingertip. Maybe able to slide that leg a little further back so we're getting more of a stretch now. Hands high to the sky, lifting tall, dropping one hand down, bringing the other one up over the top. And again, we can move with our breath, sitting tall, bending over, or we can hold and just keep trying to move lower and lower and lower. Lifting that shoulder away from the rib cage away from the hip, trying to maximize the stretch we're getting down the side. And then coming forward, front arm, forearm resting on our thigh, straight line from the shoulder to the hip, to the knee, to the foot. Other arm stretching and pulling and pulling and pulling as hard as we can. And then coming back and sitting up tall. Bringing our feet together, both feet together in the front. Stretching through the back by hinging at the hips, holding onto the chair, coming slowly, stopping when we feel as though we're getting a really good stretch and shouldn't come any further without causing undue strain, and just coming down as far as we'd like. Slowly sitting up, planting our feet flat on the floor, taking us to a back bend. Either keeping the heels of the hands on the chair or bringing our hands and fists to the back of the hips or palms against kidneys. And then thinking about pushing the belly forward, the rib cage forward, pulling the shoulder blades tight together, lifting that heart up toward the sky. Pushing upward, 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 not letting ourselves collapse into our lower back. If we'd like, we can bring our arms up and over the top. I've turned sideways in the chair just to give you a better illustration, but you could be doing it just seated as you were before. And then finishing off with a spinal twist to loosen up any tension in our back, our shoulders, and our hips. We're going to pulse on the hip, rotate through the belly, turn around to the side. Bringing opposite hand across our legs without pushing the knees together. We still want to keep the knees directly over the ankles. Keep our feet flat on the floor, but we're trying to push that back hand into the seat of the chair, stretch our spine a little higher. Try and tighten muscles on the hip through the midsection of the torso, turning around to the side as far as we can. We can let our chin drop down to our chest and slide it toward our front shoulder, back and forth if we're feeling tension in our neck. And then going to the opposite side. Feet flat on the floor, knees in alignment with the ankles, pulse on the hip, rotate through belly, rib cage, heart, turn around to the side. Sit as tall as we can, leveraging back hand into that space between the back of the chair and the seat and pressing down so we can get our spine taller. And again, if we're loosening up tension through the neck, we can let our head swing. And we'll come back to center. And again, we have the choice of doing the gentle standing poses next, doing the guided meditation next, or just sitting quietly by ourselves. We're going to scan our body from head to toe and see if we feel any tension anywhere. If it's in our arms, we can let them hang down the side, shake them out. We can walk our feet in place, just tapping up and down to loosen up the legs. We can let our chin drop, let our chin swing side to side. Whatever we need to do, tuning into our breath, bringing that breath to any point of pain, strain, soreness, fatigue. Staying as long as we'd like. And when we're ready to conclude, bringing the arms up and out and around, palms together down to heart center. Namaste.